Hello and welcome to the oddschecker betting show, November Cheltenham Meeting and Punchestown preview, sponsored by 888 Sport. On today's episode, we will hear what Ed Quigley has planned for his birthday weekend at Prestbury Park.
You going to town?
Yeah, I'll be leaving the car at the racecourse and about a 3-hour walk home. Yeah, that'll be that.
What 888 Sport ambassador Barry Geraghty makes of star novice hurdler now going chasing Bob Ollinger.
Reports are very good on his schooling. He's a point-to-point winner, so it should be natural for him to go jumping fences.
And you'll get some clues as to Andy Holding's best bet of the weekend in the Supreme Novice Trial.
I think there'll be 6 or 7 runners, and if you've got 6 to 1 in the can each way, that is an unbelievable bet.
Delighted to be joined today on the show by both Andy Holding and Ed Quigley, 2 regulars on the oddschecker betting show. Great to see you both. We've got loads to get through, so I'm not going to do too much small talk, but fair to say you're both going to be at Cheltenham on Friday for the day's racing.
Absolutely, George. Yeah, be there.
Working, drinking.
How far actually are you away from the track, Ed?
With no traffic.
He's about to ask for a bed, I think.
3 minutes 42 seconds to the main entrance. No traffic. I could get to the back entrance, the other side, in about 2.5 minutes. Yeah. So, but with race day traffic, that could become a lot longer. It'd be better off walking. So, yeah, that'd be the.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I haven't been to Cheltenham since. I don't have to say since what. But we're going to get into the racing now. The way this is going to work is we're going to look through the card at Cheltenham on Friday, picking out a couple of selections. We're recording this on Thursday afternoon. Late on Thursday afternoon, it's going to go out Friday morning. So we're not going to spend too long on Friday because we know that a lot of people will listen to this or watch this on Saturday. We'll be welcoming 888 Sport ambassador Barry Geraghty onto the show with us to preview Saturday's card at Cheltenham and a couple of races over at Punchestown. Then we're going to say farewell to Barry and just have a quick look forward to Sunday, not in too much depth because we don't have final decks yet, but we'll have a look at the Morgiana and a couple of other bits and bobs as well. But let's get into the first race of the day at Cheltenham. Ed, you'll be necking your Guinness in the Arkle bar, getting out there to make sure you don't miss it.
Well, it's my birthday as well. I should probably throw that in as well. So it's going to be a blend of work, play, form study, drink. It could all unravel.
Is Andy coming for your birthday party and I haven't been invited? Is that what's happened here?
Yeah, I deleted you out of the WhatsApp group, mate. Yeah, that's what happened there. Yeah.
Oh, shame. I'm working anyway. I couldn't have come. Right. So in the 110. Andy, we're going to come to you here because we know you've got a fancy. We've got Scatman is the 7-2 favourite ahead of Art Approval at 11-2. Antayer 6-1. Neon Moon 15-2. 11-1. Captain Black Pearl 12-1 bar. Currently 20 runners here. Andy, what is your selection? What's your fancy?
Yeah, I can see why Scatman's favourite because the horse that Jane Williams who chased him home at Newton Abbott advertised the form at Bangor yesterday, albeit over fences. So he was always going to be a popular choice. But as I've mentioned a couple of times in the podcast, I desperately want to get on board most of Fergal O'Brien's within reason. And I like the run the other day of Art Approval behind Guard Your Dream. That Guard Your Dream race was exceptionally fast for the grade. It was a good race, but it wasn't like a top class race. But it was interesting that the sectional times for that compared with the 2 hurdle races on the card, and there were 2 good hurdle races with substance, that race worked out really, really well. So I just want to make a note of anything that comes back here to Cheltenham and runs here at the Paddy Power Meeting. And Art Approval's the first one to represent that form line. He kept on quite well from the back of the field. He was ridden almost with a view to this meeting, arguably, even though he was a 9-2 shot. I didn't think he was ever really put in the race with a winning chance. That was over 2-4. He's now stepping up to 2-5. He's got a really good record here at Cheltenham in general terms. He was second beyond Favois at this meeting last year. The October meeting last year. And then he was a bit lucky in the 2-mile race won by Lively Citizen when not getting the clearest runs after a bad mistake 3 out. So he's had plenty of practice around here. And I do like the fact that it's one of these conditional jockeys races where you want an informed pilot on board as well. And I don't think there's many conditionals riding as well as Liam Harrison at the moment. I think he's 4 from 11 in the last few days. So the combination of Fergal O'Brien, Liam Harrison, and a horse who likes Cheltenham and ran in a very good time figure race here at the track last time. All points in the direction of him going really well here. Like I say, Scatman on Tuller got lots of time for them, but they've never been around Cheltenham, and you've got to try and stick when you can with Cheltenham form. So 11-2, art approval, 5-6 places. That'll do for me.
Yeah, 11-2 best price, art approval, the sea of blue and oddschecker. People copping on pretty early on to Andy's selection. Onto the second race of the day. Ed, I know this is where you have your strongest bet on the Friday, the birthday winner, let's hope. It is the handicap chase over 2 miles, and Magic Saint is the 3-1 favourite ahead of Stolen Silver at 7-2. Editor de Gite at 4-1, Capotoy 11-2, then 12-1 bar, 9 run. What's the selection?
Yeah, I'm going for one a bigger price here to roll back the years. That's Bundoran for Tom George, 10-year-old now, but had a wind operation since last season. I just thought this is twofold, really. The horse has bombed out in the Grand Annual back in the spring, but other than that, has a phenomenal record at this track. I think his form figures are what are they? 2-1-2-2-3 at 2 miles round Presbury Park, including when hacking up in this race 3 years ago, won by 8 lengths, could have been 18 lengths. Went up to a mark 160 at his peak. Has tumbled all the way down now to 140. So he's only £2 higher than that win 3 years ago. He's £8 lower than when he was beating a neck in the Grand Annual as well. So he's starting to look really well treated. All his forms at Cheltenham. They pursued this kind of 2.5 mile route. He doesn't stay 2.5. I think it's fair to say. Now, look, you've got to factor in the fact he is 10 and he could be gone. But you're getting a decent enough price to find out if the wind operation has worked. As I said, it to me, he's one of the best handicapped horses in the entire meeting. If the old fires do still burn, he loves this venue. He's been there and done it. And yeah, he'll definitely do for me, because I don't think those towards the top of the market necessarily have that much in hand over the handicapper. So like Magic Saint personally, I think it's a little bit of a handicapping no man's land off 152 and etc going through him. So this is a horse, I said, was winning a grade 2 at Kempton only 18 months ago, was rated in the 160s, in here off 140, back at his favourite track. Yeah, he's the one for the Diet Lemonades on my birthday.
Bundoran 16-1 best price. If you hear an almighty scream when you're watching this on TV as Bundoran hacks up by 8 lengths, could have been 18, you know exactly who it is. On then to the third race of the day, which we're not going to preview as a betting heat because only 2 run in the novice chase, but one of them is My Drogo, the other is Gin on Lime at 5-2. And Andy, I'm just going to come to you quickly here because I know that My Drogo is a horse that you are it's in the notebook, let's say, for the season, even if we're not going to learn too much here.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't go on like the 5 that we did last weekend, but he was only called at the last minute. He was like number 6. He was the next best, and I think he's going to take a very, very high rank, isn't he, in the novice chase department? You'd be surprised if there was going to be a better one over this side of the Irish Sea. So the Irish will have plenty of ammunition with the likes of Fernie Harlow and Appreciate It. That kind of horse. But Dan Skelton will already have probably 3 or 4 races on his mind, starting with this one, that he's going to plot all the way through the campaign with a view to the Arkle. The Arkle has basically been his target for 2 years, and the fact that he missed last year's Cheltenham Festival kept him away from all the big targets, the tempting targets at Cheltenham when he was on a roll. I think he'll stand him in good stead. Couldn't have hoped for a better start. Just one opponent, so he gets the sight around Cheltenham without having the hustle and bustle of other horses around him. He's no mug, by the way, Gin on Lime. I've watched all his races over in Ireland. He's run to some good time figures. He jumps really well. He goes a good gallop. So this won't be an absolute, complete and utter cakewalk. But you'd still expect My Drogo's class to hold sway and come through. It'd be a bit of disappointment in summary if he didn't win.
Interesting to see. My Drogo one to keep an eye on, but no mug, as Andy says, even if My Drogo is 3 on, going to face some kind of a test, both against the course itself and the sole opposition too. Andy, we'll stick with you here for the penultimate race. We're going to cover now the Ballymore Novices Hurdle. Obviously, with your time figures, often with these novice hurdles, your input can be pretty valuable. Gelino Bello is the 11-8 favourite ahead of Off Your Rocco at 11-4. Blazing Carl 5-1, 10-1. Cape Hernando in Current Mood 20-1 bar. 7 run again here. Andy, how do you see this?
Yeah, I'd say if I was to have a specialist subject in the national atmosphere, it would be novices hurdles. The time figures always guide me down the right path. I've got something that's done a good number, then they very rarely let you down. And the ones that I'm going to be back in here is Off Your Rocco. His effort when he won at Listowel was exceptionally good. I love the way he went through the line that day over 2 miles. He beat a horse called Farut, who'd won very impressively the time before at the Galway Festival. And he kicked him out the ground very, very easily. He made slightly more harder work of things next time at Limerick, but he still got the job done. I didn't think he jumped the brush hurdles as well as he might, or he'd done the time before the normal conventional timber hurdles. And I think going left-handed is quite important to him as well. I didn't think he'd, like I say, he enjoyed going right-handed at Limerick. He always seemed to be meeting these flights on the wrong leg. But he still won, and he still knocked out another good time. He's got the 3 of the 4 fastest time figures that we've got on our sheet. The only other one who gets sort of like shoehorns himself into there on the numbers is Giuliano Bella, the favourite. He clocked a good number at Aintree, and he was very strong at the finish. I've got a huge amount of respect for him. He's cut out the same cloth as Nappers Hill. Similar types, obviously, who ran him well in bumpers last season. And they look to be the 2 best Nichols horses so far this season in that department. So he's got a stern test with Giuliano Bello, but 11-4 for Off Your Rocco. Hopefully we'll look a decent price come 335.
I'll be tentatively with Blazing Cow.
Yeah, okay.
The horses really click staying up in trip. I got to admit, a lot of these races, I just get nervous. These unexposed types suddenly improve £8 to £10 for better ground, just with the fact they're naturally progressing and they're young. So, no strong view on me, no bet. I've kind of missed the price on Blazing Cow, is what I'm trying to say. The horse was 10 to 1 and the price is gone. So, no bet race for myself.
We'll stick with you then for the lucky last at Cheltenham. The handicap hurdle, City Derby is a 7 to 1 favourite, 8 to 1 Brawson, Samba Dancer 9 to 1, Shashenka 10 to 1 with How Do You Like Me Now 12 to 1 bar. Ed, you said you're filled with fear when it comes to the novice hurdle. How does this make you feel?
Well, actually, I'm broadcasting out elsewhere today. I've actually described this as the trickiest race to work out in the history of Cheltenham Racecourse. I'm probably going a bit far here, but I think odds compilers have had they're having migraines over this. I mean, this is ridiculous. You've got so many last time out winners, horses arriving here on a sequence, progressive. I mean, where do you start, really, was the kind of way I went through it. I thought there was about 8 or 9 in here. I couldn't rule in or rule out. The one I kind of tentatively came down on, who's for a good young trainer, Toby Laws, who used to be assistant to Nicky Henderson, was Vocal Duke, who arrived here on a hat-trick and did it in good start, faking them last time out. Seemed to really enjoy some better ground. Gone up £7 for that, which is kind of the mantra for quite a lot of these, really, are coming in here on winning sequences. So thought that horse was double figure price. The yard had a couple of winners last week. And I must admit, very tentative selection. If I'm relying on Vocal Duke to win the 300 run at 4 o'clock at Cheltenham on Saturday, then I'm in more trouble than just a couple of Coke Zero. So it'll be he'll be for me tentative each way.
Vocal Duke 14 to 1, best price as it is. Andy, can you make a bit of a easier task of solving this?
Hopefully, yeah. It's a race I quite like, and I quite like playing a couple against the field in a race like this, just to kind of keep my options open. I did notice that Tony Martin's sneakily got one in this race, and he won this race back in 2013. I don't know if Ed remembers a horse called Quick Jack.
Absolutely, yeah.
Who was probably one of the best backed horses of the entire 3 days back in the day. And I think he was about a 4 to 1, 9 to 2 chance.
I was there.
He got absolutely obliterated, and he won very, very easily. And the great man, who's in a bit better form than he was, in the last 2 years, last 3 years recently, he's got a horse called Belgo Prince. His hurdle form's not anything to go to town with, but he won quite easily the day at Navan on the flat. So knowing Tony Martin, he's probably hatched this plan from quite a way out. So we've got to keep an eye on him. But the 2 UK horses that come under my microscope with regards to figures and form, Brawson is one of them. Now, Martin Keithley's horses are in good nick at the moment. I have noticed that. I think he's had 4 winners in the last fortnight. including a good one the other day at Huntingdon. And I think he's laid this horse out for this meeting, no doubt. He was third behind also Fruit and Nut, Bangor in a very good time figure on his hurdling debut. And then he had a spin around Cheltenham the other day. And he only found Top Bandit too good for him, who was one of those Davy Russell, Gordon Elliott combination novice hurdle winners that has been a regular occurrence in the last 2 or 3 seasons. But he stayed on very eye-catchingly all the way to the hill that day. He didn't go down without a fight. So I like his attitude. I think he'll run really well. And the other one to mention is Man Insane, which is definitely a name which could be directed in my way after some of the tips I give out on a daily basis.
Nonsense, Andy.
But yeah, it has been this week. But the third horse, I did notice one of Nigel Hawkes won at Taunton today. So I'd be keen to keep an eye on that form line, because Charlie Longsdon, again in the yard in good form, he comes out of that race with flying colours, because the figure was very good, and I like the way he was strong at the finish. He reminds me of Castle Robin a bit, who went up north early on in his career, run at Carlisle, places like that, and then came back down south and did a number here last year, didn't he? Won the 2 mile 5 handicap on the Sunday, and he's around about a 12-1 shot. So I'd probably be risking a few quid on those two, Brawson and Man Insane. But Tony Martin, he'd be rolling back the years if he was to win this again, 8 years on after Quick Jack won it very easily.
Yeah, Burger Prince is 14-1 as it stands. A few others in there. Favourite mentions from Andy. That brings our Friday preview to a close. On to Saturday racing now, and delighted to be joined by a third expert guest for this part of the preview, 888 Sport Ambassador Barry Geraghty. Barry, happy memories of November at Presbury Park?
Yeah, over the years I've had plenty. I suppose the first one was when I won the Paddy Power. It was then the Thomas Pink, and I won it on Cypher Malta 2002. So that was a nice spare ride to get, and he was a brilliant horse to ride. So I had a great day at that day. So my November meeting started off with good memories with him anyway. And over the years, yeah, good, but I never won the Great Wood, and I didn't win the Paddy Power again after that. So I got it early.
Got in early. That's the important part. Get the monkey off the back early doors. We'll get into the racing on Saturday. We're going to go through the middle 4 races on the card at Cheltenham, and then we'll glance over at Punchestown as well. We're going to kick off with the 140, the novice chase, the 2 mile novice chase, 4 run here. Third Time Lucky is the 2-on favourite ahead of Mick Pastor at 5-1, Captain Tomcat 17-2, and Sebastopol 14-1. And Andy, with Third Time Lucky, sure to be popular after that eye-catching seasonal reappearance a couple of weeks ago. At that price, can you understand why, or is this a case of maybe falling into a bit of a trap with a bit of scintillating, at least on the eye, early season form?
Yeah, I mean, he was spectacular, wasn't he, in every department. Set his stall up from an early stage, jumped the fences fantastic, particularly at speed, the one coming downhill and the 2 in the home straight, those tricky ones that come up rat-a-tat-tat. It looked very proficient. Looked as though he'd been doing all his life. Well schooled, as a lot of Dan Skelton's horses always are. He was their big county hurdle project for last year. That didn't quite work out, but wind operation seems to have helped him. And he's the kind of horse that really excites you, isn't it? I think he'll have a little bit more competition for the lead. I don't think he'll quite get a freebie as he had here last time out. I think he caught 1 or 2 jockeys by surprise in how attackingly he was ridden here a few weeks back. I think Charlie Hammond will have something to say about it. Obviously, on Captain Tomcat, who comes here off the back of an all-the-way victory at Wincanton when he put Mick Pastor through his paces and found more for pressure. So yeah, that's the only thing or flaw, chink in the armour I could see with Third Time Lucky. If he does see off Captain Tomcat early doors and he gets into a good rhythm, I'd imagine he'll justify favouritism. And even if he's ridden in behind, I mean, let's face it, most of his performances as a novice were held up anyway. Then he's got that string to his bow. So barring accidents, you'd like to see him. You'd like to think that he could repeat the dose and follow up that win. But yeah, was he 2-5? I mean, nobody's bargain, I suppose. Yeah, 2-1. Yeah, probably put it in a double with the Skelton other horse, My Drogo. But even that's got into a 2-runner race now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
On the Friday.
Yeah, I mean, but Barry, obviously, a lot of people would be happy to back Third Time Lucky at this price, given we've already seen him do what he did at Cheltenham. How important is it when you've got a horse, especially at Cheltenham, who goes well at the track?
Well, it's one thing off your list that you don't need to worry about when you do handle the track as well as he did and jump as well as he did, because it is one of the trickiest tracks in England or Ireland. And just at the pace of the race and the intensity, even at a lower level, which it was the last day, there's still a lot of pace and it's competitive. So he'd be better for that experience, but he took really well to the track. And being honest, I think if Captain Tomcat goes on, I think that will suit Third Time Lucky. He'll be better with a lead and produce later for speed because he has a lot of class and a lot of pace. So he's better than these, but he's going to meet stronger opposition as the season progresses.
Yeah, he will. Ed, can you find any angle here?
Not really. Like he looks superior from what we've seen. Only thing I would say is I think he's priced up as though this is an absolute cakewalk. On official figures, there's a bit more in it than perhaps meets the eye. You know, Mick Paster's rated 147. Captain Tomcat 144. You know, this is not a case of just run out and jump round. But it's I don't think he's going to win 20 lakes on the schnaff like he did at the October meeting. There's a little bit more on his plate here. You know, out of Mick Pastor and Captain Tomcat, I actually fancy Mick Pastor to reverse the form of it. I think that's a horse Barry would know quite well. I think he's a bit more about speed and doesn't often find a great deal off the bridle. And he looked, I thought, like he was going to win the Rising Stars over 2.5 last time out before his legs went like jelly in the closing stages. I expect him to be kind of smuggled into it from off the pace to kind of pick up the pieces. So I do think he gets a £5 pull with Captain Tomcat and coming back down in trip. I could see why Mick Pastor's he's shorter in the market than Captain Tomcat. But yeah, I think there'll be a lot of pace on here. I mean, Sebastopol's got form over 3 miles, hasn't he? Captain Tomcat likes to get on with things. He stays 2.5, so it's not going to be in their interest to kind of dawdle. But then all in all, I think it will set it up for Third Time Lucky to come through and win. And I expect Mick Pastor to kind of be racing the ambulance and pick off some nice second place prize money at the running, basically. So he'd be the tentative one for forecast selectors. But yeah, Third Time Lucky. I expect all the hyperbole article quotes to go into overdrive on the back of this.
Yeah, so basically what we're saying is the market's got this one right. So we'll move on to the 2:15, which is the Paddy Power Gold Cup handicap chase, and we've got joint favourites at the top of the market. Protectorat and Layla are 6-1 joint favourites. Al Dancer 8-1, Midnight Shadow 10-1. 12-1 Zanza and Caribbean Boy and Galahad Quest, also the same price. Simply the Bets, one of these horses that's moved over from Harry Whittington's over to Paul Nicholls. Will be interesting to see how they got on. Rouge Vif and St Calvados as well. Nietzsche also 16-1. Cool Cody 16-1. 20-1 Bar. And Andy, I'll come to you first to try and make sense of this one.
Yeah, I can see why anti-post punters have been going wild about Laylaw. It's just the kind of horse that seduces certain members of the betting fraternity. Ex-Katie Woolacott, first run for Paul Nicholls, first time wind up after wind up. Obviously, good Cheltenham Festival form back in the day. But his price stinks for me. I couldn't really make him a 9 or 2, 5 to 1 shot. I think this is a way more wide open than that meets the eye. And he's a 9-year-old as well, and you wouldn't want to be much older than that. I mean, I think I don't think a 10-year-old's won it since 1975. 9-year-old just about make the grade. Cool Cold won it last year as a 9-year-old. But generally speaking, you want to be looking at younger, fresher legs like 7 and 8-year-olds. Normally, I let the ball come onto the bat in a race like this. I tend not to do too much overstudying. And the one that just jumped out for me as soon as I looked at this race in the anti-post and when he was entered was Al Dancer. He's similar to Laylaw in many respects because he's now having his first run for a different trainer, but he has gone to a yard and an operation which clearly mean business this season. They've campaigned their horses differently, and we saw before midnight at the first meeting in October just how good Sam Thomas and how far he's come in the space of a very short space of time. And he's inherited a horse from the Twist and Dave stable that's got an amazing record first time out. I think every time he's had a break of over 100 days or more, he's won. And I think that stretches back now for 4 seasons. They gave him a prep run last year, but in hindsight, he probably didn't need one. They should have perhaps just come straight to the Paddy Power. But that aside, he still ran well. He finished 3rd, but the ground was bottomless last year, and it just probably sucked the life out of him. I think he wants genuine nice ground, which to all intents and purposes should get Saturday. I think it's going to be good to soft in places, which is absolutely bang on for him. He still races off a good mark, but he loves Cheltenham, which is it's an absolute prerequisite. Everyone knows that. Most of the winners of the Paddy Power have got brilliant form around Cheltenham. That goes without saying. And he ticks every single box I looks for. In form yard, horse goes well fresh, loves this kind of hustle and bustle of race. And he's ridden, for me, pound for pound, one of the best chase jockeys around in these kind of events, Sam Twiston-Davies. So if I can get sort of the price that he is currently on Saturday with maybe 6 places available, it's hard to see with a clear round Al Dance not giving me a massive run for my money. So I'm not even going to mention another horse and just put him forward as my bet in the race.
Yeah, Al Dancer currently 8-1 best price. A few firms already sticking their neck out and going 6 places, so do keep an eye out on that as well. So a pretty strong selection there for Andy. He's solved it already. So Barry, I don't know what else you can really add, but maybe you can shed your insight on the race.
Yeah, it's a tricky enough race because I don't think there's massive strength and depth. And Al Dancer is definitely a progressive type and one I would like. He's a very keen going horse, and I'd said the really soft ground last year didn't suit. He just wouldn't have got home so well. So I think he has a big shout. Lawler, on the other hand, I suppose I would look at him as maybe the Paul Nicholls switch. Is that going to bring the improvement? He's had a first-time wind-up, first-time tongue-tie. He had a good run in Cheltenham back in January. So I think he is a big player. Protector Rat has good form in the book, but top weight, I think it's a big call for him. He was a smart horse last season, but he wasn't top level. It's just a very tricky race, but I would like Al Dancer, and maybe another sneaky one who had a good run in Aintree last season at the festival is Dostal Phil, who was second to Gary Moorhorse. He could be a little each way shout, but it's a very tricky race.
Dostal Phil 20-1 best price as it stands. Ed?
Well, yeah, Andy said this is a race where he's let the ball come onto the bat. Well, I've been throwing mud at the wall, or whatever you want to say. Or there's a load of phrases. I've been tying my head in knots over this contest for the last few weeks. I think this is incredibly difficult, to be honest with you. I actually slightly disagree with Barry. I think there is a lot of depth in it for the fact that there's no kind of real standout second season novice. So it kind of throws them all into a similar kind of ballpark, if you like. And who's £7 or £8 better on the day, I think is pretty hard to work out. I mean, to summarise, I got them down to a short list of 4, 2 which I've gone off due to their prices. One being Layla, who was 20-1 4 weeks ago. Now it's obviously been absolutely carted off the park. It's just totally the wrong price now, if you see what I'm saying. All value's gone in that. Nisha was never one for Brian Ellison. I thought was, again, a week ago was 40-1. Is now 16. So I've had to bin that on price grounds. There's only £1 higher than when last successful. Tanked round in the Ultima till about 3 out, and then legs went like jelly on soft ground over 3 miles. Back to 2.5. I thought that previous Greatwood Hurdle winner would have a sweep. So they're the kind of 2 I'm kind of resentfully putting a line through. So I've come down to 2 V to field. One of them was in my horses to follow last week, which is Dayan the Kayak, where I mentioned connections were going to hunt the ground rather than the race. And, you know, being the resident Michael Fish here, you know, other than a bit of rain last night, it's pretty much been dry for the whole of November, which is something to bear in mind with this meeting and this race especially. You know, the years of kind of Tranquil Sea and Alpha Rov and Takanda Soy and jockeys wearing 3 pairs of goggles and all that. It's not going to be anything like that this year. It's a mixture of good. I mean, they've had to water it at the start of the week just to take the sting out of it. So it's going to be a mixture of good and good to soft. And so that's something to bear in mind. And so my 2 V to field, Dayan Kayak, as I mentioned last week's show, very well handicapped horse who's got his ground. And I think he's a big old price. And Caribbean Boy for Nicky Henderson's one of interest because he produced his best performance last season, first time out, fresh, on good ground, when he thumped Fiddler on the Roof. And that form subsequently doesn't look too bad with that horse coming out and winning Colin Parker. After that, it all went wrong in bottomless ground and he didn't take to the national fences and they messed around with him in trips. And first time out, he's going to get his ground. He slipped down to a mark of 148. I wonder whether he's becoming a bit of a betting proposition. So, yeah, long-winded, convoluted, but I'm basically going 2 V to field, Caribbean Boy and Dayan the Kayak, and just fingers crossed. Not that I want a horse to get beaten, but yeah, Layla wouldn't shock me with the transition to Paul Nicholls if that horse improved £7 or £8, and he's got him spot on for the day.
Caribbean Boy 12-1 best price. Dayan de Kayak is 33-1 as it stands. Big price there for Ed. On then to the 250, and Ed, I'll stick with you for the handicap hurdle, the listed handicap hurdle, where Prashima is the 11-4 favourite ahead of Ballymilsey at 5-1. Dragon Bones 11-2. Kansas City Chief 9-1. 10-1 Bar. Ed, over to you.
Yeah, I've had a bet on the bar here. One of Barry's old friends is Sporting John. I thought was real interest. Back over hurdles after the wind up. I mean, he was the flukiest winner of the Scilly Isles Chase you ever see. If you remember that race back in Sandown in February, I think Hitman fell. Nicky Henderson's mare unseated. Shamblu was leading all the way, and then touched odds on him running. Then his legs, the Petrolite came on up the Sandown Hill in heavy ground, and Richard Johnson was on Sporting John, and he pretty much hit everything, but just picked up the pieces and stayed on the running. He's just not a natural chaser. His jumping fell apart in the what was the RSA, and again after that. Back over hurdles off 146, you know, he was sent off second favourite to beat Envoy Allen in the Ballymore a couple of seasons ago. He's still very lightly raced. The wind ups worked. But this way, it's the easiest race on paper he's raced in for 2 years into handicap company over hurdles. They're the kind of horses with the back class at double figure prices, which make my eyes light up. And as I said, he's still young. He may have bigger targets ahead of him, but I thought the move back over hurdles was positive. So yeah, double figure price, Sporting John for me.
Sporting John 10-1 best price, and Barry, you were sitting on Sporting John when he went off second favourite behind Envoy Allen back in March 2020, and he's also sat on him for 3 wins to get to that point as well. So any thoughts on Ed's pick there?
Oh no, definitely he would be one with a chance, and the starting off at this trip, I think is ideal for him. It's close to 3 mile. I think that's up the street. He was a very smart novice hurdler, but for whatever reason, he didn't turn up at the festival. So that wasn't his true running. So he probably hasn't achieved, he hasn't fulfilled his full potential over hurdles. So he's arguably, he's £7 well in over hurdles compared to fences, and he could be £7 or £8 well in. And at this level, he's better, I think, top weight in this kind of handicap than in a more competitive one down the weights a bit. So I think he definitely has a big chance. Of the rest, I thought Dragon Bones was one who had a great run last time. Ian Williams knows how to get one ready, and I thought it was a good run last time, and he could be involved.
Yeah, Dragon Bones, as I said, 11-2 best price as it stands. Another one to keep an eye on. Andy?
Yeah, I'm following the great man in here with one of his picks there, Dragon Bones. Me and Ed were quite keen on Bardenstown Lad. Me and Rory, beg your pardon. Rory, when we covered the October meeting.
Ed will claim it as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. I'm sure he fancied it as well. He looked strong form, that Bardenstown Lad, based on what he'd done in Ireland, and it wasn't a great surprise that he justified a good deal of support in beating Dragon Bones. He's just a very, very strong stayer, that John McConnell horse. He's a horse similar to Streets of Doyen that might end up back at the festival in the Albert Bartlett. So I think Dragon Bones just bumped into one, but sort of going down to 2 out, you're looking in your wing mirrors thinking, oh God, if you'd backed Bardenstown boy and he was flat to the board, you think, God, Dragon Bones is going to go and pick him up. He didn't materialise, but Dragon Bones, to be fair to him, saw the trip out absolutely fine. He just bumped into a stronger stayer on the day. He's come out of that race rated 132 still, which is more than workable. He's lightly raced. We know he now likes Cheltenham, which is great. It's a feather in his cap. Ground's going to be similar to what it was here 20 odd days ago. And I'd have to flag up On a Gathering Storm as well, who faded out of contention in the end, finished third. He only got beat 8 lengths, but that was his first run for 161 days. So he's probably more entitled to need the run than the front two who had a recent run. And we know the Fergal O'Brien stable is absolutely, knocking the ball out of the park. There's so many trainers at the moment who are in good nick, but I think Fergal's probably leading the way with the strike rate at the moment. And you can bet your bottom dollar he'll have all his horses revved up for this meeting. So I'd want to keep quite a few of Fergal's on side that have been around the track, and he's one of them. So I'd probably stake this race accordingly. I'd have more on Dragon Bones, probably because he's beat the other one, but I'd have to have a little bit of a saver on the Gathering Storm as well. That'd be my 2 against the field.
On the Gathering Storm, 10-1 best price. Dragon Bones getting a double nod there from Andy and from Barry. Ed going for Sporting John, an old mate of Barry's as well. So a lot of harmony there between your guys' picks in that one. Going now into the final race we're going to preview on the Saturday at Cheltenham in this kind of whistle-stop tour of the weekend's racing, and it is the handicap hurdle over 2 miles and 5 furlongs, where Unexpected Party is 130 favourite. Although Mackle-Duff, a lot of money in for Mackle-Duff today, all blue on oddschecker, 7-2 best price as it stands. Benson 8-1, Good Time Johnny and Gal Roads both 10-1, 12-1 Bar. And Barry, I'll give you first run here for the last race we're going to be covering at Cheltenham.
It looks competitive, but for me, I suppose with the Skeleton horse, you talk about Fergal O'Brien's been in good form, but the Skeletons are on fire. And I thought Unexpected Party was a good winner last time, and he would be my choice.
Unexpected Party there, the favourite, Barry's choice at 130. You mentioned the Skeletons in good form. Another yard in good form, Andy, is Ollie Murphy. Seems to have a lot of horses after a disappointing end to last season. A lot of well-handicapped horses, and this Mackle-Duff could be another. Yeah,
but indicative with how a lot of Ollie's horses are performing at the moment. They're all going well on this good ground that we've been having, and Mackle-Duff's proven on such a surface as he showed at Aintree last time out. Went through the race like a well-handicapped horse and stayed on quite strongly. I think the one thing that we don't know with quite a lot of these is how they're going to get on a stiffer track. A lot of them been running round, your speedier tracks, if you like. Unexpected Party went through the race really strongly the day at Wetherby, but obviously got to run over an undulating track here, so is Mackle-Duff. I always tend to kind of look at whatever Brian Ellison runs in these handicap hurdles. He's got an amazing record in the Greatwood. I think he might have. Did he win it with Nietzsche? I know Nietzsche has been placed in it quite a few times. Yeah. And he's got a nice horse, Puxatawny Phil, right down the bottom, who's got in, I think, off a mark of what looks fairly lenient, off 113. He got beat by a nice horse of John McConnell's at Perth in the autumn called Clondor Hollow. And he gained compensation last time out with a fairly facile victory, etc. Now, these tracks, obviously, he's learned his trade and he's now got to prove on a bigger stage. But I do think there's quite a bit of potential with him. He looks a strong stayer to me. I like his mind. And I think he ties in with similar kind of form lines to the likes of Unexpected Party, and yet he's available to back at 12-1. I think he's a dangerous floater there, right down at the bottom. So a race I haven't got a massively strong view. I'm strong on other races than this one, but I do like that horse. So he'd be one I'd look at a price.
16-1, Andy.
Wow,
16-1.
That is a big price. That is. Like I say, I think there's plenty of wiggle room there for a mark of 113. I think he'll end up being much better than that. Whether there's all the better handicapped horses in this race, because there could be quite a few, remains to be seen. But he'll definitely punch above his weight. There's no doubt about that in my mind.
Ed, any thoughts?
Yeah, I haven't got involved yet, but I've had a horse in my tracker for some time. It's Ben Pauling's trained Severance, who looked an absolute machine on his hurdling debut. He was a fair flat horse, as to be said, and then bolted up in it. It was a Carlisle maiden. It was no great shakes, but one head in chest on that occasion. Then went up in grade and found the life a little bit tough. But grand benefit of hindsight, found his way in behind some pretty good horses in defeat. The likes of Do Your Job, who went on to win in the grade one at Aintree. Funny enough, he was third time lucky when last seed, admittedly well beaten at Kempton. Handicapping with the hood on off a mark of 127. He's a bit of a joker in the pack because of the raw ability is clearly there. We saw that on his ability from the ability he showed on his debut. He's clearly got his own ideas about the game. So maybe a bit better ground, being next flat horse with the hood on, it might calm him down. So he's one, if I can get kind of 16-1 or bigger, I might roll the dice on. But yeah, not anything I've got involved in yet.
The horse that he beat at Carlisle, when you mentioned that day, and he knocked out a really good time, has won since, hasn't he, Ed? Was it Bass Rock?
Bass Rock, yeah. Sandy Thompson's horse.
Yeah, he lowered the colours of a hot pot the other day at Carlisle. Yeah. And I do know that Ben was absolutely mortified how bad Severance ran the next day, because I told him it was a good time figure, and it all fell apart for him the next day. But yeah, that's an interesting run of that.
Yeah, bit of an unknown quantity, but then I like those unknown quantities when they're floating around at nice prices. You know what I'm saying? So we'll might take the chance with that one.
Severance there, 14-1 for Ed's best price at the moment. We're going to go over the Irish Sea now to Punchestown. A couple of races we're going to preview there. And first is the first race on the card, the Beginner's Chase, and the first opportunity we'll have to see Bob Ollinger, the Ballymore winner, in such impressive fashion, taking on the bigger obstacles for the first time. And Barry, I'm guessing, it's impossible to be any more impressed by what Bob Bollinger did last season. How excited are you to see him going chasing?
Oh, definitely. You couldn't be any more impressed than he was. He was a brilliant winner and one of the standouts of the meeting. Reports are very good on his schooling. He's a point-to-point winner, so for me, it should be natural for him to go jumping fences. So definitely one to look forward to. French Dynamite would look to be the main opposition, but he's also owned by Rob Course, so whether both will turn up, but you'd imagine Bob Bollinger will be the pick of those two. He looks head and shoulders above everything, and Punchestown is a nice place to start. And as I say, he's got that point-to-point experience, and generally Henrys are brilliant to jump and are well prepared first time. So no, he should be very hard to beat.
Andy, we've seen Ballymore winners recently not necessarily live up to it in second seasons. We've got Sam Crow, Envoy Allen obviously having a difficult end of the campaign last season. Is there any way we can, Bob Bollinger's 2-7 here. It might not be this time round, but can you see any reason why he won't progress into a star chaser?
Not really. I mean, it's only his exuberance, which was there for all to see in the Ballymore, which might be his undoing. But I think he'll calm down as time goes on. And obviously, chasing was always going to be his game. That they could have sent him over hurdles for another campaign. What race they would have ended up? They could have either gone back down to even a champion hurdle. He's got that much speed, and doing Isterbrack, because Isterbrack won the Ballymore before winning the champion hurdle 2 or 3 times on the spin. So it wouldn't have been beyond the realms of possibility that Henry de Bromhead's gelding could have done that. But obviously with Honeysuckle in the yard, they think, well, can we beat that? Probably not. So I think they've probably done the right thing. It's going to be a case to hold your breath out of the first 2 fences, because I think if he clears them okay and doesn't do a Bally Adam and headbutt the first fence, then he should be okay. I think he's probably going to be in a lot of punters tend to follow lists as well. So yeah, he's an exciting prospect. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing him. Obviously, Mr. Incredible did okay for him the other day. That was a good starting point for him, and I think the stable's obviously chock full of that kind of horse for the remainder of the season. But Bob Bollinger's got to be the number one, isn't it, from that yard?
I mean, Ed, is there any each way plays? Can we see anything getting close to him on Saturday?
I wouldn't know, to be honest with you. I just looking forward to seeing this horse. Now and again, you get a horse that really excites you, and he was the one that he was interested listening to Harry Cobden from the Ballymore when he was on Brave Man's Game, and he said he thought he was going a fair old lick turning into the home straight, and then I just saw this thing go past him as if he was just stood still in a lift, he said. So, yeah, I mean, it was he's got serious turbo. I mean, there's only one thing to mention, which is worth mentioning, so I'll flag it up, so I will mention it, is the fact that the ground at Punchestown, I mean, it's good to yielding. Listening to the updates of the course, it's almost good, which is almost unheard of at this time of year at that meeting. And if you do look at all Bob Bollinger's form from last year, I mean, he raced exclusively on softer heavy until the festival, where I believe good to soft in places. So at least if you're trying to find something that's slightly different scenario for him, it's going to be the quickest ground he's ever raced on under rules. And whether that poses something slightly different of him, I wouldn't know. But he looks to be such a nice moving horse. I wouldn't have thought naturally to my eye that would be too much of a trouble. So yeah, hopefully he wins this, goes on to bigger and better things. Really, really exciting horse in the National Hunt Game.
Absolutely, 2-7 the price at the moment. The last race we're going to cover is the second race at Punchestown on Saturday, and that is the novice chase, the Grade 2 novice chase, just over an extended 2 miles, where Cape Gentleman is the 10-11 favourite ahead of Riviere de Tel at 4-1, Buddy Rich and Embittered both 5-1, Take All 11-1, 50-1 the last 2. 7 runners, Andy, disgraceful with a 10-11 favourite. But how do you see this as it stands with those early prices out now?
Yes, it always pains me to be previewing a race where there's only 7 runners in. I'm forced down a route that I don't normally like to do, and that's offer up a win-only bet. But yeah, Cape Gentleman ticks all the boxes you look for. He obviously likes going right-handed. They flirted with going left-handed. It didn't quite work, did it, last year over hurdles? But his last 2 performances over fences have been breathtaking. I actually thought he might struggle the other day at Cork. The ground was pretty soft, and I wouldn't have had him down as a soft ground slugger, for want of a better word, because it became more of a test the other day, and he was up to the job. I mean, he beat a decent field. I thought there was good strength in depth. There was good money around for one of Paul Byrne's. The name escapes me. I think Noble Yates, who'd won well at Galway the first day, and he had him in trouble a long way out. And the feature about Cape Gentleman as well is his jumping. He's so slick from A to B. He's really, really a good operator. And this better ground is just tailor-made for someone who jumps really well. And I'd imagine he'd be off in front and doing his own thing. It's not an absolute penalty kick because obviously Embittered will have something to say. He's a good horse around the track. Horse that's been run well at the last 2 Cheltenham festivals. Riviere Detail's a really nice mare, receiving all the allowances for a 4-year-old mare. She's right down the foot. She's no back number either. And obviously Buddy Rich got his day in the sun last weekend. There's no fluke about that performance either. So there is a little bit of strength in depth in here, but I'd have to go with Cape Gentleman. I think his technique will stand him in good stead.
Cape Gentleman 10 to 11, the one for Andy. Odds on favourite there. Barry, can you pick any holes in the Fav?
No, I don't think so. I think he's very strong. He was brilliant in Cork, jumped really well, travelled strongly. So it's straightforward for him. He can just pop out and school away. As regards the opposition, Buddy Rich was behind him. I know Buddy Rich beat Ballyadam, but that's questionable. I'm not sure we saw Ballyadam at his best. Embittered is a good horse, but he's 2 from 10 over fences. So he's had enough chances. But no, for me, Cape Gentleman, for what he's done, both over hurdles and fences, I think he's a very good horse.
Ed, point and shoot.
Yeah, very hard. I mean, the Emmett Mullins team, very hard to look beyond Cape Gentleman. The Emmett Mullins team are on fire. If I was going to try and find a negative about an odds-on favourite, would be the fact this is his 3rd run in 4.5 weeks. And it was a deep ground last time out. You know, you do just wonder at some point, does that kind of 10%, that little bit of freshness just go off and suddenly they look a bit jaded? But I just think he looks the class act. Expected to win this. Then whether they then give the horse a little bit of a break during the deep kind of winter ground, I'm not sure what the plans are yet. I mean, the ground was really lively. I remember when he went at Kempton over hurdles last season. I mean, the times, I'm sure Andy back up, were absolutely rapid and he seemed very happy there. So I don't think deep winter ground with the longer view would probably be the ideal scenario for him. So probably making hay now, if that makes sense, before putting him away. So yeah, Cape Gentleman for me. And yeah, Buddy Rich has become like the Jim Boljab poetic flair, didn't he, on the flat? He seemed to run every 4 days last season during the yeah, Buddy Rich is kind of heading that way. I reckon he'll probably jump round in second again. But yeah, Cape Gentleman looks a class act.
And don't get suckered into any anti-post quotes for Cape Gentleman for the festival. There's more than a decent chance that he'll stay on home soil and run at the likes of Punchestown and Fairyhouse in the spring, going right-handed rather than coming over to the festival, because I don't think Cheltenham really will suit him.
Possibly the sagest advice he'll get on this podcast. Don't be tempted in by those quotes if he does win well here on Saturday. We're now going to preview Sunday, but before we do so, going to let you go, Barry. Thanks very much to Barry Geraghty, 888 Sport Ambassador, for joining us. He'll be back with us next weekend, ahead of next weekend as well, to preview the weekend's racing. Yeah, time now to look quickly ahead to Sunday's racing. We are recording this at about 5 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, so this is going to age quite quickly. A bit of guesswork will be going on in terms of who runs where, because we haven't got final decks, but we thought we'd rather get some kind of a preview in for you guys rather than ignoring it altogether, because there is some cracking racing both at Cheltenham and over in Ireland at Punchestown. And we're going to kick off with the Schlur Chase, where Put the Kettle On, champion chaser, is 7-4 favourite ahead of Nuba Negra at 2-1. Sky Pirate 9-2. Politolog 5-1. Paul Nichols saying today he couldn't believe the price this morning of Politolog when we've heard that before. Rouge Vif 15-2 and Bundoran 50-1. We've spoken about Bundoran already, Ed. I don't think he's going to factor into our considerations here necessarily, but looking at the card now as it stands, where can you find the value in the Schlur?
Very good question. I mean, we moan about small fields, but I'm not moaning when they're this quality, are they? Yeah, the 1-2 from the Champion Chase, previous Champion Chase winner, Politolog, Rouge Vif nearly broke the course record in a 2-mile handicap last year, and ground should be absolutely spot on for him. And I'm tentatively with Sky Pirate, just because I think there could be a right old pace burn up on here, and he's got race fitness on his side. A few of these, the cynical side of me, just wonders whether they might be having their eye in before the Tingle Creek in 3 weeks' time, and perhaps they'll be coming here 85%. But look, I mean, on balance of probability, you've got, I suppose, Put the Kettle On. She's never lost a race here, has she? She's the champion chaser. But I find this This is just an enthralling spectacle of 2 mile national hunt chasing. I don't have a strong view, but I think Sky Pirate is a strong traveller. Doesn't always find perhaps as much as you think, but I think he'll be ridden off the pace. He always jumps and travels well, and he'll come with a late rattle. But just a race, to be honest with you, I'll have a stinging hangover by this point, so I'll be just looking forward to watching it. This is just, if you can't get excited about this, you won't. This is top class 2 mile national hunt action.
Yeah, absolutely top class stuff. Sky Pirate getting a favourable mention there from Ed at 9-2. As short as 3-1 elsewhere as well. Need to use the oddschecker app if you're going to be backing these horses. Andy, how do you see it?
I think he's going to be a popular choice, Sky Pirate, because he's just the kind of horse that a lot of punters would want to back in a race like this, on the process elimination basis. Nubi Negra, put the kettle on, coming off the back of long layoffs. There is going to be a pace burn up from the front with Politolog and put the kettle on, taking each other on. That's the theory. And, the stalking horse is going to be Sky Pirate with that run under his belt as well. That'll stand him in good stead. And we know he loves the track. And he's a Grand Annual winner. So he's clearly working his way up the ranks. But I think from my perspective, I'd have to stay low to put the kettle on, having put up in last year's Queen Mother Champion, and to see a battle on up the hill was one of the great sights of that last year's 4 days for me. She's just so tough. She won this race last year, albeit not probably as spectacularly as one would have imagined. I think largely due to the fact that it was soft ground. It was really tiring ground, and Aidan Coleman took her around the outside to look for better ground, but she was suffering from wheel spin all the way around. But it was only her courage that got her home. But the genuine good ground, hopefully that will last all the way through to Sunday, will really suit her. And she only runs 2 or 3 times a year, so anybody Bromman won't come over here and think, we'll just have a little spin round and prep race. He'll have her absolutely bang on for this. She goes really well fresh, and I think we'll see her in a much better light than she was last year. And don't forget, she's still only a 7-year-old. It's not as if she's been around the block more times than a tramp's dog. She's fairly new to the game, as it were. So I can see the Sky Pirate angle. He'd be the one I'd be largely worried about. But I've got to stay low to put the kettle on.
Put the kettle on 7-4 favourite pretty much across the boards. On then to the Great Woods. Andy, we'll stick with you here. No Ordinary Joe 11-2 favourite. West Cork 13-2. Adagio 7-1. Hade Dezobo 9-1. Tritonic 10-1. 12-1 bar. Plenty left in there. This is going to cut up a fair bit by Sunday. So a bit of guesswork going on. But who do you fancy at this stage? Yeah,
he's an interesting runner, isn't he? No Ordinary Joe. Just had the 2 runs, but he's only beat 9 horses altogether collectively. It's not really my style to tip a horse like him. He's never been to Cheltenham. He's never been in a handicap. We don't know how well handicapped he is off 133, but it might not make any difference whatsoever, because if he's not used to the hustle and bustle of a Great Wood, there's going to be like 20 odd runners, in and around him. Pace will be strong. His jumping's going to be tested to the max. And at 5-1, just absolutely makes zero appeal to me. I do like my Irish handicap hurdle form brought over to these shores, and there was a race run at Listowel which I'm desperately looking to keep on side. I backed Esky Lane and put it up in my column a couple of Saturdays ago, and he absolutely bolted up, didn't he, when he won at Down Royal. And the horse that finished second and the horse that finished 5th run in this race, namely Boa Boy and Advanced Virgo. Boa Boy's 20-1. Now, if you don't know this horse, you want to go back and look at his form. He's a real strong traveller. He only just got touched off by a nice horse of Dennis Cayley's the time before the Galway Festival, who was well handicapped. And off a mark of 136 on good ground, I think he'll go very, very well. He's a kind of horse that'll still be there going well, going down to the last. And at 20-1, 5-6 places, I'd be more than happy to keep him on side. And you'd always have to factor in Charles Burns, wouldn't you, with Advanced Virgo, who finished 5th, as I said, that day. He ran really well on the flat the other day at Leopardstown behind a horse called Powerful Aggie. So he's maintaining his form levels quite well. And to all intents and purposes, I think the headgear will be retained one way or the other. And I've noticed that Darryl Jacob is waiting in the wings to ride him. So I'll stick to that Listowel form. It's a very strong time figure, and I think one of those two will go very close, if not both.
Advanced Virgo 12-1 best price at the moment. Boa Boy, as Andy said, 20-1. Ed,
that's a mad price. That is
mad price. How about
Yeah, well,
let's have the forecast as well. Why not? 12 and 20s.
I was going to say, and Andy, you'd be thinking I'm mad with this next tip because I know it's a horse who's definitely on his list, and that is I wouldn't give up here on Tritonic for Alan King. I thought off 142. With hindsight, I've watched that race back against I Like to Move It last time, and I think Connection seemed quite happy afterwards. It was a case of getting him back on the track. He was trying to give £8 away. I just wonder whether, this is also a lot of kind of big field flat experience where he used to come from off a back of a rattling pace, when he was, second at Royal Ascot, he'd be held up with the ambulance and come past horses and come through a lot of horses at big fields. And I just wonder whether these 3-4 runner small field naff affairs, these kind of muddling tactics just aren't really playing to his strength. So that being said, you need to sharpen his jumping up. But I mean, he looked a horse of real excitement in Donis. By all accounts, scoped badly after the triumph. A bit of a kind of so-so comeback at the October meeting, but kind of got a feeling they didn't almost want to show their hand that day, and they've kept his mark at 142 for today. Put it that way. That'd be my take on it. So I just thought with this kind of scenario would suit him a lot more than some of those little small field muddling events. So I think the ground would be fine. I just thought, as an each way player, he's probably one. And if I was going to go 2V to field, which I probably will, I can't resist one at a big price. Old Ballyandy is absolutely no secrets from that horse, and he's 10 years young. However, he wasn't beaten far in this last year. Well, he was second in this last year. That was off 154. 12 months later, he's got into it off 146. So definitely handicapped to go well on old form off an £8 lower mark. And of course, we know he loves Prestbury Park. So I think it's probably a bit too much going a step too far to imagine him to win this. There's probably a few better horses that are just going to be much better treated on the day than him, but I'm sure he'll be absolutely wound up to the minute for this. He'll run his race and he'll probably run into a place again. Obviously, check your each way terms. If you're kind of getting 14, 16 to 1, 6 places or something, I wouldn't put me off Ballyandy at that type of price. So Ballyandy each way, Tritonic for me, my 2V to field.
Yeah, Ballyandy 33 to 1. But as we always say, if you're backing Ballyandy now and Ballyandy doesn't turn up, isn't still entered after final decks, you do not get your money back. So you've got to be careful. But 33 to 1 best price at the moment, and Tritonic 10 to 1 best price. The Supreme Trial next. And Andy, we mentioned how Novice Hurdles is your bag, so we'll come to you first here. I Like to Move It is 7-4 favourite ahead of Washington at 4 to 1. Sonagino is 6 to 1 alongside Colonel Mustard. Picker and No Ordinary Joe again 8 to 1. Top Bandit 10 to 1. 20 to 1 bar. Only 3 others left in at the moment, so it looks like it could be quite a small field, this one. Andy, where would you be looking to have a bet now?
Oh, there's an absolute standout bet in this race. I'd say probably the best price of the whole entire meeting currently. I think this race will cut up as well, so if you back it now, actually, by the time this comes out, you probably won't be able to back it because it'll be Friday morning and the decks will be coming through. But we're in the
good for the three of us.
We'll keep it in house. Yeah, but the 6 to 1 available for Colonel Mustard, it is an amazing price. It could be argued that he should be favourite on form because his runs last year were quite extraordinary in some of the hottest novice races over in Ireland. He chased home Echoes in Rain, who I think he's going to be a very useful mare in and around the champion hurdle sort of category for Willie Mullins this season. And he was closing that filly down in the latter stages in that Grade 1 at Punchestown. They wanted to just get him running under his belt and, get the monkey off his back, as it were, with regards losing their maiden status at Galway the other day. But he tanked through that race like a really good horse. It served the purpose of blowing away the cobwebs. They probably didn't want to come here to Cheltenham, not off the back of a run. They're clearly, trying to acclimatise him with his track. But he's a very, very good horse, Colonel Mustard. His time figures over in Ireland are very good. He's a better horse than Top Bandit, for instance. I Like to Move It. Yeah, he won well enough here the last day, but still not absolutely totally convinced by him. Washington's an interesting run. He's an interesting run in the sense that I thought Go Dante would come here because they both ran on the same card, didn't they? The 2 divisions of the Novice Hurdle, and Go Dante and Washington were almost identical as well on the time figures. Circuit times were almost the same. I actually think Washington was about half a second quicker than Go Dante, but I thought he was the one that they'd come here with and find out whether he was a supreme horse. But the fact that Washington comes here unbeaten in 3 runs and represents the inform Ollie Murphy stable, I think leads you to believe that he's probably more geared up to this kind of race on good ground than Go Dante, who probably would want it a bit softer ideally. So he's an interesting runner, but there's no way he should be 7-2 and Colonel Mustard 6-1. As I said, he should be favourite for me. So I think there'll be 6 or 7 runners, and if you've got 6-1 in the can each way for Colonel Mustard, that is an unbelievable bet.
Should be favourite Colonel Mustard there from Andy, 6-1 at the moment, joint third favourite.
But he's rated 144, so just up purely on ratings, he should be favourite. I think he's got the best form. I think it's only the fact that he's trained by Lorna Fowler, who's not exactly a household name in many over here, that why he's the price he is.
Yeah, there you go. Andy Holding in the study with the lead piping. Colonel Mustard, the one for him in the Supreme trial. Ed?
No, Andy makes a good points there. I mean, obviously, fans of I Like to Move It want to see my tip Tritonic run well in the Greatwood. And I suppose if he does, then you could see I Like to Move It's price contract. And likewise, Washington was the one I was most interested by. Obviously, repeating a lot of what Andy said there, really, with the Go Dante. Obviously, they've got pretty much 2 similar horses on what evidence we've seen so far over hurdles, and they put Washington in here. And I just like the way in which he went about this business last time out. Looks progressive. Okay, novice hurdles, as I've said at the start of the show, I generally stay clear of here. Horses just improve £8-10 just for having another outing, and we could all be made to look silly. So as a general rule, I'd probably be against I Like to Move It, even if Tritonic wins, for the kind of hypocritical viewpoint, in the sense that I don't think Tritonic was really at it that day. And I think perhaps I Like to Move It was slightly flattered. And as I said, don't forget, he was getting £8 from Tritonic on that occasion as well. And I do just wonder, he's around 7-4 with the markets, not really giving away any prizes there, is it? And I think there's others in here with more potential than him, shall we say, would be the bottom line. And Washington would definitely be one of those. I think he looks really exciting.
Washington there, 4-1 best price. So a couple to take on the favourite with at this stage. The final preview in this bumper episode is the Morgiana, where Echoes and Rain, Andy, who you just spoke about a second ago, even money favourite ahead of Saldia at 9-2, Sharjah 9-2, Abracadabra's 5-1, Zanahir 10-1, Stormy Island 12-1, and Darasso 33-1. Ed, I'll come to you first here. Echoes and Rain, even money against with a decent bit of quality in behind as well.
Yeah, again, I'm putting out, as I said, all kinds of crazy signals, trying to confuse everyone as much as possible. Isn't Echoes in Rain? Right, I've backed Echoes in Rain for the Champion Hurdle, but I think she's an absolutely abysmal price to win this race. I have the viewpoint she will, in time, be a slow bird and will make up by the spring into this kind of calibre. I mean, she's even money to beat some solid yardsticks here. I mean, she'll be getting £21 from Sharjah if they met in a handicap. Abracadabra's a multiple Grade 1 winner. Saudi's rated 162. Yes, she hasn't had time to show her best, but she is priced up as if she's already Annie Power, if that makes sense. She's 143 rated mare. I really like her. I wouldn't be shocked if she was lining up in the Champion Hurdle in 5 months' time with a realistic chance. But to carry my money first time out in this at odds on, not for me personally. I love her to win, but to be honest with you, if she finished second in this, as I say, on figures, it's far from the biggest shock in the history of the Morgiana Hurdle. So race I'm sitting out, but I'm just happy to watch, and I hope she wins, obviously through pocket talk for the spring.
Yeah, short enough for today, but plenty of respect from Ed. Andy, how do you see it?
Yeah, I tend to go along with Ed with regards prices. Either handicapper's completely lost his marbles and not rated her high enough, or the bookmakers have lost theirs, and she's way too short. I've
lost mine. Yeah, that's the most logical.
But I mean, look, with regards like a form guide to Colonel Mustard, without bringing him into the equation again, if she does win here in Grade 1 company, it makes the Colonel Mustard project even more appetising, and an hour and a half further down the line at Cheltenham across the card, because, like I say, if the handicapper's saying that Echoes in Rain's 143, and basically the market's saying that Echoes in Rain's going to be a 160 horse, it's almost like predicting what's going to happen in the future further down the line. Then Colonel Mustard should be winning at Cheltenham off against novices. But yeah, I agree. Zanahir is obviously back to form. Sharjah's been in good form throughout the summer jumping period. He's useful. Abracadabra know what he can do. This is probably a lot deeper than what meets the eye. So yeah, I wouldn't be backing Echoes in Rain either at that short price.
Anything in particular you'd take her on with?
I think at the prices, if the ground stayed on the genuine good side, I'd have half a look at Zanahiyr. He was really good at Fairyhouse on the figures, going right-handed on good ground at the Hatton's Grace meeting last year. And that run sticks at the back of my mind. I don't think he was ever quite the same horse since. But what we saw of him on his comeback the other day, he looked pretty good. And I think 7-1 probably just is a little bit too big for him, for me. So
10 to 1. 10 to 1.
Wow, God.
Yeah,
that is a price. Yeah, I didn't realise. Yeah, that is even better. So, yeah, I'm thinking he's a big price at 7, but 10, yeah, 3 points bigger, then that's got to be seen as value.
Well, there you have it. I'm already fairly exhausted by this weekend's racing. We haven't even got there yet. I get to think how it's going to be on Sunday afternoon.
How many bets have you got in line already, George? Which ones?
I'm not even going to think about it till tomorrow. I don't think I can't after that.
You need to get that 6-1 Colonel Mustard now.
Yeah,
though.
that'll be the plan. Thank you very much to Andy and for Ed as ever, and thank you to 888 Sport for sponsoring the episode, and thank you to 888 Sport Ambassador Barry Geraghty for joining us as well. Do ensure you download the oddschecker app for the very best prices, free bets, bookie offers, place terms, and some of the best tipsters in the game, including Andy himself, for whose tips you can find up on the app at about 9 a.m. every morning. Do enjoy the racing, and please do gamble responsibly.